Sit your mindset, and make no mistake, this is not a one-time task. This is not a 30-day challenge. This is a lifetime process. Because just as a warrior sharpens his sword before battle, you must sharpen your mind before life every single day. The tragedy is that most men stop programming their mind at 18 and wonder why their life stops expanding at 28. But you must never stop, because life will never stop testing the man you are becoming. There will be days when doubt screams louder than your affirmations, when the world mocks your repetition, when your friends call it weird, your family doesn't understand when you want to quit. That is when you double down. That is when you say, I will not live by the beliefs of others. I will live by the identity I choose. Say it again. Say it until your voice shakes the cage your old self built. Say it until your subconscious no longer listens to your past, but obeys your future. Let me speak to you plainly. You will never rise higher than the identity you repeat. No strategy will save you. If your subconscious still believes you are weak, no opportunity will last. If your subconscious still sees you as undeserving, no relationship will thrive. If your subconscious still repeats abandonment, rejection and fear, but change the repetition, and you change the trajectory. This is the hidden power behind not just action but mental installation. You think Henry Ford rose simply because of mechanics. He rose because he refused to speak like a small man. He refused to believe the limits others placed on his vision. He programmed himself through habit and voice and environment to believe he was a builder of worlds, and so he became one. Now ask yourself, what do I say to myself daily? What voices do I absorb unconsciously? What tone do I tolerate? What identity am I installing by default? Because you are becoming someone. You are either programming or being programmed. There is no neutrality. Write this down and speak it aloud, not once, but daily. The man I repeat is the man I become. I speak my future until my mind obeys. I will not let yesterday write tomorrow's script, because the man who reprograms himself daily becomes unstoppable, and the man who doesn't becomes forgotten. Lesson 5. Pick your partner with extreme caution. No man rises alone, and no man falls alone. Either there exists no force more quietly influential and dangerously overlooked than the voice of the person you love. That voice is not like the others. It doesn't shout like your critics. It doesn't compete like your enemies. It whispers softly, daily, consistently, and that is what makes it powerful, because over time repetition always becomes reality. And when that voice is filled with doubt, fear, or small thinking, it doesn't just touch your mood, it rewires your mission. You must understand this now, and never forget it. If her voice is close, her beliefs are inside you. You see, most men don't fail because they lack discipline or opportunity. They fail because the most consistent influence in their life does not believe in who they are becoming. And when the one you share your soul with doubts your evolution, you begin to second guess your own identity. This is not about love, it's about access. Love without alignment is not support, it is sabotage in disguise. A woman can build a man into a force, or dissolve him into a shadow, not with force, not with direct opposition, but with soft sabotage, with questions like, are you sure that's smart, or do you really think that's possible? With little comments, with sighs, with subtle disapproval, with comfort that feels like care, but is actually fear in disguise. Because the truth is this, a partner is either a mirror of your growth, or a prison of your past. There is no neutral partner. You are either being pulled forward, or anchored backward, and the voice closest to you determines the direction. I've said it before, and I will say it again with fire in my voice. You must choose your partner with the same intensity you choose your purpose, and if you are not as deliberate in your relationships, as you are in your goals, then one will cancel the other. Let us consider a man history rarely gives credit to, though his influence was monumental, Charles M. Schwab, the steel titan of Carnegie's empire. Now Schwab was not just a businessman, he was an architect of systems, a leader of men, a bridge between ideas and execution. But behind every fire behind every bold decision he made, there was a consistent, steady presence. His wife, she was not on the payroll, but she was part of his council. Her voice reminded him of his standard. Her silence held him accountable. She did not shrink when he rose. She did not flinch when he stumbled. She did what only a true partner can do. She reflected the future, not the past. This is the test. Does your partner remind you of who you were, or who you are becoming? And you must answer it with brutal, unflinching honesty. Because no matter how much strategy you build, no matter how many affirmations you repeat, if the closest voice in your life plays on the wrong frequency, you will break formation. Here's what most never calculate. Emotional influence compounds more silently than financial debt. You don't feel it in a single conversation. You don't feel it in one disagreement. You feel it over time, through thousands of micro moments, where you silence your instinct to keep the peace through habits. You let go of through disciplines. You relax through passions. You bury, just to avoid tension. At first it feels like compromise. Eventually it becomes identity. Now let me give you this test. A way to inspect your relationship with clarity, not emotion, because emotion will lie to you. It will dress up stagnation as safety, will wrap up fear in phrases like "we've been through so much," or "but she loves me." Love is not the question. The question is this: does she challenge your evolution, or cushion your excuses? Ask these questions. Now write them down. Reflect on them in silence. Does she reflect your mission, or your memory? Does she speak the language of growth, or the language of fear? When you speak of your vision, does she expand it, or shrink it? Does her presence pull you into purpose, or into pause? Does she light your fire, or soothe your doubts? If she were not your partner, would you seek her advice on your highest goal? The answers will be uncomfortable, but they will also be liberating. Understand this, and never forget it. You are either in a relationship that sharpens, or softens. You are not too demanding. You are not too intense. You are simply aware that your future cannot be built beside someone who fears it. Many men will live their entire lives dimming their own fire to make someone else comfortable in the room. They will call it loyalty. They will call it commitment. But in truth, it is emotional stagnation, and emotional stagnation becomes spiritual death. Now let me say something few dare to speak. If she cannot grow with you, she cannot go with you. You must stop confusing romance with alignment. Compatibility is not comfort, it is mission resonance. And if her beliefs, habits, and standards are not pushing you forward, then you are simply carrying the emotional weight of her fear and calling it love. You are not obligated to take every person from your past into your future, even the one you once vowed to love, because love without alignment leads to resentment, and the man who resents the woman beside him will eventually resent himself. So what should you do? You test with vision. You share your clarity. You speak your aim. You make it plain, not once, not vaguely, but clearly, repeatedly and unapologetically. And then you observe. Does she adapt or avoid? Does she raise her standard or retreat into familiarity? Does she begin to walk with you, or does she drag her heels behind your ambition? You must watch, not wish, because if you ignore the evidence in pursuit of the fantasy, you will marry regret. Now for those who are not yet partnered, listen closely. Do not choose based on beauty. Do not choose based on history. Do not choose based on pressure. Choose based on alignment. Find the woman whose values echo your own. Find the woman who believes before the evidence. Find the woman who doesn't need to be convinced, because she's already convicted. She doesn't tolerate your ambition. She speaks life into it. She doesn't ask why. So intense. She says, let's build. Let this be your new standard. I will not share my heart with a voice that does not protect my future. Say it again. Say it when doubt creeps in. Say it when silence feels safer than confrontation. Because your future cannot afford compromise. And the woman who fears your growth will always try to cage it. Not always with hate. Sometimes with love. But even love can become a leash when built on insecurity. Let me offer you this affirmation. Speak it daily. Let it become your filter. The voice closest to me reflects the man I'm becoming. I do not apologize for growing faster than others. Expect my relationship is a mastermind, or it is not my relationship, because this is not about her. This is about you, your mission, your evolution, your legacy, and if you do not guard it, no one will choose well, or be chosen, by default. Lesson 6. You were not born to be liked. There comes a time in every man's life when he must choose between applause and advancement, between being liked and becoming legendary. And though many will speak of courage and quote the bold, and even dream of greatness, few will ever choose the second path. Why? Because it is lonely, because it is uncomfortable, because to truly rise a man must confront one of the oldest fears known to his soul, the fear of disapproval from childhood. The programming begins. You are rewarded for compliance, not creativity, for obedience, not originality. You are praised when you make others comfortable, and punished when you make them uncomfortable with your truth. And so brick by brick society builds a prison around your instincts, and you, like most men, decorate the walls. You smile, you comply, you pretend, but there's a fire inside you, one that never fully goes out, a whisper that says you were not born to be liked. You were born to be remembered, and it haunts you in moments of silence, in seasons of delay, in every meeting where you bite your tongue, in every relationship where you shrink your voice, in every dream you shell for the sake of being agreeable. Let me speak now with piercing clarity. If you do not confront your addiction to approval, it will kill your destiny, not with a blow, but with silence. You must understand this. The men who build empires, who shift nations, who bend time to their will, they are not universally liked. In fact, they are often mocked, misquoted, misunderstood. But they do not apologize. They do not seek applause. They seek alignment. Let us return now to Theodore Roosevelt, a man born into wealth and status, expected to play by the rules of civility, expected to conform. But Roosevelt did not bend to expectation. He confronted it. He did not care to be liked by his class. He chose instead to be feared by weakness and respected by men of will. His speeches were too bold, his policies too aggressive, his beliefs too raw for the elite circles of his time, and yet he shaped a nation. Roosevelt once said, "It is not the critic who counts," and he lived by that. He did not shape his life to fit the preferences of others. He made decisions, took ground, moved forward. He chose purpose over praise. Can you say the same, or are you still seeking to avoid offense, still walking on eggshells in rooms you've outgrown, still over-explaining your goals to people who secretly resent your ambition, still making sure your light shines, just bright enough to feel warm, but never enough to make others squint? If so, then you are choosing likability over legacy, and no man can serve both. Let me now give you a truth that will either offend you or set you free. If you are not being misunderstood, you are not growing. If you are not being judged, you are not leading. If you are not being talked about, criticized, questioned, doubted, then you are still too small to be noticed. And that's the danger. Most men confuse being accepted with being effective, but in the pursuit of popularity, they water down their truth, they shrink their edge, they trade their fire for friendliness, and they wonder why their life feels hollow. Understand this, you do not need more applause, you need more alignment, and alignment often offends the lazy. When you become disciplined, it offends the insecure. When you speak boldly, it offends the average. When you pursue excellence, without apology. But here's the reward: when you stop seeking approval, you start commanding respect, not from everyone, but from the right ones. You must ask yourself now, why do I still care? Why do you still fear being called too much? Why do you flinch at unsubtle comments? Why do you water down your passion in meetings? Why do you stay silent when your truth is trembling to be spoken? Because somewhere deep inside, you still believe that being liked means being safe. But I'll tell you now, it is not safety, it is slavery. Approval is the golden cage, polished, admired, but a cage nonetheless, and the man who remains in it will die, having pleased everyone, except himself. So how do you break this? You begin by offending, gently. You start by saying no more than yes. You speak your goals, without rounding off the edges. You let people squirm in your certainty. You stop explaining why you are different, and you start living like you were born to be. Yes, people will leave. Let them. Yes, you will lose friends. Let them go. And yes, some will call you arrogant, intense, selfish. Let them, because they are speaking not about you, but about themselves. They are revealing their discomfort with your freedom, and that is not your burden. Let me say this again. You will offend the small when you choose to rise, and you will be called names. You will be misjudged, but I promise you none of that will matter. When you wake up 10 years from now, having built the life that was burning in your heart, and none of their approval would have mattered if you had died with it unfulfilled, unseen, unexpressed. The moment you stop being liked is the moment you start becoming powerful. You must learn to navigate rejection without guilt. You must train your spirit to recognize disapproval, not as a sign to retreat, but as a signal of progress. Let it be your compass. The man who stands for something will always stand alone first. That's the law. But here's the gift. Once you endure the loneliness, once you hold the line when no one claps, once you speak your truth and survive the silence, the right ones begin to gather. Men of standard, women of fire, circles of belief. They do not need you to shrink. They need you to show up fully, unapologetically. And when you do, your life begins. Let this be your new affirmation. Speak it daily. I was not born to be liked. I was born to lead. Approval is not my food. Truth is. I choose legacy over popularity, purpose over applause, because you must make the choice, and make it now. The path of greatness is not crowded, not because it's hidden, but because most men are still waiting for permission. Stop waiting. Walk forward. Speak with fire, and let the applause die behind you. Because on the other side of disapproval is not danger, it is freedom. Lesson 7. You must live with urgency. There is a myth that has deceived more men than failure ever could. A lie, whispered softly into the ear of youth, reinforced by the sluggish movements of the average, preached by those whose clocks are running out. And the lie is this: you have time, time to grow, time to decide, time to change, time to pursue what matters later. But I am here to tell you the truth, and I will not wrap it in comfort. You do not have time. You have only now, and most men are wasting it. Every instant you pass today believes, somewhere in the back of his mind, that he has decades to become the man he was meant to be. He thinks there will be more mornings, more chances, more motivation, so he postpones greatness, telling himself that next year, next month, next Monday, he will begin. And while he waits for that perfect moment, life continues without him. He ages, he delays, and slowly, silently, the clock claims what he refused to act on. His potential becomes a ghost that haunts him in the silence. You must understand, time is not your ally. It is not a friend. It does not bend to desire. It does not pause for reflection. It moves forward, with or without your permission. And while the average man will forgive him, the extraordinary man learns to fear time, not as a threat, but as a sacred fire. That fear sharpens his vision. That fear fuels his urgency. That fear births the clarity that allows him to dominate days others treat as disposable. Let me teach you a new way to live. The 1-year mindset. Imagine truly. Imagine that you have 12 months to become who you were born to be, not in theory, not in ambition, but in execution, in every area, your body, your mission, your circle, your wealth. What do you stop tolerating? What would you finally say? What would you delete from your phone, your schedule, your thoughts? This is not fantasy. This is alignment. The 1-year mindset forces you to strip away the excess. It demands precision. It eliminates distraction. Because when a man feels the weight of time, he stops playing. He begins building. He stops convincing. He begins commitment. Not wait for a diagnosis or disaster to ignite. Urgency. Most instant. Wake up only after a tragedy, lost job, a failed marriage, a doctor's report, and then suddenly they get serious. They begin to change. But the wise man does not wait for pain to give him permission to act. He chooses urgency. Now let me tell you a story. George Eastman, the founder of Kodak, knew this truth. Well, he built a photography empire before most people knew what a snapshot even was. He made technology accessible. He transformed the way humans remember. And he did it because he lived with fire in his calendar. He believed life was a brief window. He said yes to vision. Quickly, he moved. He decided, he acted. And even when he faced personal despair, he wrote his goodbye with grace and finality. My work is done. Why wait now? Listen to those words again. Why wait? What are you waiting for? A sign, a guarantee, approval. Let me break that illusion. Waiting is killing your power. Every time you delay a decision, you dilute its impact. Every time you push your purpose to someday, you betray your future. Every time you entertain another hour of smallness, another minute of comfort, another second of delay, you are quietly voting against your own greatness. Urgency is not anxiety. It is not panic. It is clarity with teeth. It is the energy of a instant. It is the posture of someone who understands that each day wasted is a posture of someone who understands that each day wasted is a part of his soul he will never reclaim. It is the decision to treat every morning as sacred, not someday. This day, this lesson is not just for your calendar. It is for your entire life. You must apply urgency to your conversations. Say what you mean. Stop hiding behind vague politeness. Speak your truth with fire. The people who matter will understand it. The rest were never on your path. You must apply urgency to your relationships and the ones that steal your clarity. Pour fire into the ones that align with your future. Stop entertaining comfort when your mission requires force. You must apply urgency to your vision. Write the book, launch the business, make the call, take the risk. Stop circling your calling like a this power. Walk into it with commitment. You must apply urgency to your identity. You are not becoming him. One day, you must become him. Now with how you speak, how you dress, how you walk, how you think. You are not preparing to be great. You are being it today. Or you are pretending. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. You will be called obsessive. You will be told to relax. But I ask you, relax for what? For mediocrity, for the approval of those who are already wasting their time. You must choose to live like a man who knows the clock is watching. That is where power begins. Because when you walk with urgency, you walk faster than fear. When you move with speed, you outrun doubt. When you act before hesitation has time to speak, you begin to build a life most only dream. This is your call to move differently, not to think about change, but to change, not to plan forever, but to begin. Stop Later is not promised. Later is not real. Later is a fantasy, crafted by cowards. Today is all you have, and that makes it priceless. And let this be the moment you snap out of drift. Let this be the line in the sand. Let this be the chapter of your life where everything changed, not because of motivation, but because of decision. Say this aloud. Now say it like a vow. I will no longer tolerate delay. I live as if my time is short, because it is. I will not die, with my greatness still inside me. Let those words echo in your soul, and from this day forward, act like they are law, because greatness does not belong to the most talented, it belongs to the most urgent, and now it belongs to you. You have now heard what most men never hear in their entire lives, not because these truths are hidden, but because they are uncomfortable. They confront, they disrupt, they do not flatter, they demand. And that is precisely why most men never change. They collect quotes, they bookmark ideas, they nod along to greatness, and then return to their old lives, like sheep to a familiar field. But not you, not now, not after this, because once you have heard the truth, you are responsible for it. You cannot unknow what has now been burned into your mind. These 7 life lessons are not for entertainment. They are a blueprint for a life that commands respect from the world, and from the man in the mirror. You know now that your environment is your fate, that the people, sounds, habits, and tones you allow into your life are silently shaping your identity every day. You cannot tolerate weak voices and expect a strong mind. You cannot walk with the lazy and hope for fire. You must build a new room, one that echoes your future, not your past. You've learned that hard work alone is not enough. The world is filled with men who sweat endlessly and still die, forgotten, because the game is not won by labor. It is won by leverage, by systems, by relationships, by clarity. Henry Ford did not invent the car. He invented the assembly line. That is what you must do. Organize your effort. Stop working harder and start working smarter, or stay exhausted and unseen. You understand now that not everyone deserves access. Love does not mean unlimited entry. Loyalty does not mean spiritual suicide. You must reserve your presence for those who not just your memories. The people who once walked with you may not be qualified. The man you're becoming, let them go. Release with peace, but release completely. You have heard that the true battle is not out there. It is in your own mind. Your subconscious is your construction site, and every word you repeat is a brick. Every thought is a nail. Every affirmation, every visualization, every piece of content you consume is reprogramming who you are. You are not doomed by your past. You are being defined by your daily inputs. Control them, guard them, install greatness, one sentence at a time. You now know that your partner will shape your destiny more than any strategy ever will. A woman's voice becomes your inner voice, her fears, or her fire, her doubt, or her belief, her softness or her strength. Choose the one who sees who you are becoming, the one who holds up your standard like a mirror and says, you are not done yet. If she builds you, protect her. If she breaks you, walk away. You understand that you were not born to be liked, Approval is the drug of the dying. It lulls men into silence, into sameness, into spiritual death. You must accept the burden of being misunderstood. You must walk alone before you walk, admired, and if they mock you, let them. You were not born for applause. You were born for command. And now, you see clearly, time is not your friend. It is your fire. You do not have decades. You do not have later. You have now. Oh, and every second spent hesitating is a betrayal of your calling. Every day you delay is a day you sell your legacy for comfort. No more from this moment on. You live like you have 1 year. You act like your time is short, because it is so. Now I ask you to declare these affirmations aloud, not as hope, but as command. This is the new voice you will speak to yourself with daily. My environment echoes my future, not my past. I work with strategy, not just sweat. I limit access to protect my energy. I program power into my mind. Daily, I choose alignment over attraction. I release the need to be liked. I move with urgency, because I know the clock is not loyal. Say them again, not just now, but tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that, because the man who listens once will be inspired, but the man who listens daily will be transformed. Listen again. Listen when you wake. Listen before you sleep. Let this speech replace the noise of the world. Let it drown the voices that dulled your edge. Let it become your new standard, because what you repeat, you become, and now comes your decision. You will rise, or you will remain. You will execute, or will entertain. You will obey the man and your vision, or you will return to the man in your memory. The choice is not made in a moment. It is made in the small decisions, the ones no one sees. The morning, when you rise on time. The conversation, you walk away from the message. You leave unanswered. The gym session, you don't skip the book. You read, instead of scrolling. These are your votes. Votes for the you say you want to become. Do not tell me. Your intentions show me. Your standard. Do not describe your dream. Show me. Your discipline. Do not fantasize about yours. Burn the bridge. Make the vow. Never look back. Because everything you want, every level, every breakthrough, every ounce of power is already within you. It has always been within you. It was simply buried beneath the noise, buried beneath the comfort, buried beneath the permission you were still waiting for. But now you have permission, and now you have and now you have no excuse. So I leave you with this. You have heard the truth. Now build your life around it. Not someday. Now, not slowly, relentlessly, not with apology, with authority. You will rise or remain. Choose. Most men live their entire lives without ever learning the very lessons that would have set them free. They work, they eat, they age, they obey, they wear the mask, they follow the rules, they chase approval, they repeat the script, and they call it a life. But deep down, they know something is missing. They feel it in the quiet moments when the noise of the world dies down and the mirror gets too honest. It's the ache of knowing I should be further, I should be stronger, I was meant for more. That ache isn't weakness. It's your awakening in this speech. It's the moment that ache becomes action. Now listen to me clearly. For the next few minutes, you are going to learn 7 life lessons most men never discover until it's too late. Lessons you won't find in textbooks. Lessons society won't teach you, because if it did, if every man knew these truths, this world would look very different. You are going to learn why hard work alone is not the path to wealth, why your friends and family may be the ones keeping you stuck, Why your environment shapes your destiny more than your effort ever could. Why your partner's voice is either making you a king or keeping you in chains, and how to finally stop living for approval and start living with power. This is not entertainment. This is transformation. You've lived long enough to feel regret. Now it's time to feel clarity, because once you understand what I'm about to reveal to you, you'll never walk the same. You'll never speak the same. You'll never think the same. You'll stop repeating the behaviors that sabotage you. You'll stop explaining your dreams to people who fear them. You'll stop softening your fire to make others feel safe. You'll remember who you are, and even more who you're supposed to become. But let me warn you now, these 7 life lessons will not flatter you. They will confront you. They will force you to look at the lies you were raised on. They will make you question the people you've trusted. They will ask you to choose between your past and your potential. And if you're not ready to grow, stop listening now, because this is not a speech for the comfortable. This is a map for men who are done pretending, for men who are tired of circling, for men who feel that inner voice growing louder, saying, I was meant for something more. Now hear me, listen to this speech in full, then listen to it again and again, and let it become part of your blood. Let it rewrite the thoughts that have held you down. Let it saturate your mind until old beliefs begin to crack and collapse, because the man who listens once will be inspired, but the man who listens daily will be transformed. These aren't just lessons, they are laws, and they will either liberate you or you will continue living at the mercy of what you were taught, told, and tamed to become. So, decide right now, do you want to age, or do you want to rise? Do you want to be liked, or do you want to be legendary? Because if you want truth, you found it. If you want freedom, this is the first key. Now sit up, breathe deep, and let the first lesson begin. Lesson 1. Your environment is your fate. You may believe you are your own man, that your decisions are yours alone, that your thoughts are pure expressions of your will, your intellect, your reason. But I must confront you with the truth. Most men avoid until it's too late. You are not who you think you are. You are who you allow around you. That's the hidden law. Every word you speak, every belief you carry, every standard you live by, none of it is purely your own. It has been absorbed, downloaded, repeated, installed, often without question. And the place where that programming happens, the place that either sharpens you or sedates you, is your environment. When I say environment, I do not simply mean location, do not mean geography. I mean something far more dangerous, far more invisible. Environment is the rhythm of the room you live in, the tone of the voices that speak around you, the expectations that hang in the air like perfume, the habits of the 5 people you spend the most time with, the language they use, the way they breathe about money, the way they speak about discipline, the way they speak about you. That is your environment, and that environment, if left unchallenged, will become your identity. You don't rise above your environment. You adapt to it. You mirror it. You become it. Let me explain what I call environmental hypnosis. Most men are not hypnotized by a watch swinging before their eyes. They are hypnotized by mediocrity, by permission, by what's normal, by the casual tone of small talk that diminishes greatness in the name of politeness. You see, your subconscious mind does not care whether a voice speaks truth or weakness. It only obeys what it hears. Most often it records repetition, not accuracy. If the voices around you constantly repeat, be realistic, don't overdo it. Oh, not everyone gets to win. It's okay to just be comfortable. Then your subconscious, without drama, without warning, begins to obey. The tragedy is not that these words are spoken. The tragedy is that you begin to speak them too. And once you repeat them, you begin to believe them. The subconscious never questions the voices it hears the most. Now hear this: Andrew Carnegie did not become the richest man in the world by accident. He was born into poverty. He was not handed wealth. He was not raised by titans. He did not receive his identity from a pedigree or a bloodline. But what Carnegie did do with more precision and discipline than any man I've studied was this: he chose his environment. He did not tolerate small minds in his circle. He did not allow himself to remain in rooms that echoed fear or scarcity. He surrounded himself with visionaries, with doers, with builders, men like Charles Schwab, who demanded action, men like Rockefeller, who thought in decades, men like Edison, who saw light when others only saw candles. Carnegie's true genius wasn't just steel, it was selection. Every day, he edited his environment, ruthlessly, deliberately, strategically. He protected his thoughts by protecting his proximity. He once said, "Put all your eggs in one basket, and then watch that basket." That quote is about focus, but it is also about environment, because you cannot focus in an environment that fractures you. You cannot grow in a room where your vision is mocked. You cannot rise in a space that rewards your past and fears your potential. Let me ask you this, now, slowly, honestly, brutally. Who are you? Are five voices, not who do you love, not who you feel loyal to, but who are the five dominant voices in your life, the ones who shape your beliefs, reinforce your behavior, and reflect back to you your sense of what's possible, who shapes your language, who shapes your urgency, who shapes your focus. And let me ask you something more dangerous. If you removed those five voices, would your life begin to accelerate or collapse? Because here is the truth. Your five voices are either pulling you toward your future or keeping you hostage to your past. And most men never ask this. They go decades with the same voices in their ears, the same tone, the same advice, the same "be careful" whispers, the same "take it slow" encouragements. They call it love. They call it support. But in truth it is hypnosis. They are lulled to sleep by those who fear their awakening. There is a reason the most successful men in history guarded their environment, like kings guard a throne room. It was not arrogance. It was strategy, because they understood something you must understand. Now, greatness is fragile in the wrong environment. It doesn't matter how strong your idea is, if the room is wrong, it will die. It doesn't matter how bold your dream is. If the people around you mock it, it will fade. You cannot incubate fire in a bucket of cold water. Now I want you to conduct an audit today, not next week, not later tonight. Now write down the five people you speak to most often, whether in person, in messages, in thought. Ask yourself, do they sharpen me? Do they confront my delay? Do they celebrate my fire or extinguish it? Do they force me to rise or allow me to rest? And once you know the answer, act on it. You do not owe access to anyone who does not honor your future. You do not owe emotional loyalty to people who reinforce your old self. You do not owe presents to those who resent your progress. This is the cost of transformation. You must edit your environment until it reflects your evolution. Now hear this warning. Most men stay small, not because they lack talent, but because they never leave the room where they are no longer growing. They keep attending the same gatherings. They keep tolerating the same tone. They keep laughing at the same mediocrity. They stay in the same digital group chat that talks about everything except progress. And every time they do, their fire dims just a little more. They don't even notice it until one day they wake up and the flame is gone. I have seen brilliant men with uncommon minds, fire in their voice, purpose in their stride, become soft, become lost, become quiet, all because they failed to defend their environment. And I've seen average men, quiet, unsure, slow, to start transform into giants once they stepped into rooms that demanded more of them. Your environment is your fate. It is the soil in which your mind is planted. And if the soil is weak, toxic, or dry, your mind cannot bear fruit. You do not grow by willpower alone. You grow by placing yourself in an environment that leaves you no other option. And so I leave you with this. You are not simply choosing people. You are choosing your future. You are choosing the tone of your thoughts. You are choosing the rhythm of your routine. You are choosing the shape of your self-image. Every room you walk into, every voice you tolerate, every tone you accept is a vote for the man you are becoming. And that vote is cast daily. So cast it with clarity, cast it with courage, and cast it with this affirmation, spoken aloud, until it becomes law. In your spirit, my environment reflects my evolution. I only allow what sharpens me. I do not explain my fire to those who fear the heat. Now say it again, begin the audit. Because until you change the room you live in, you will never rise beyond the man you used to be. Lesson 2. Hard work is not enough. You have been lied to since you were a boy, lied to by schools, parents, mentors, and even by society itself. They all told you, work hard, and you will succeed. But now you are older, now you have seen enough, and somewhere inside you begun to suspect the truth. Hard work alone is not the answer. Millions of men wake up before dawn, give their strength to the grind, sweat into the night, and still die, broke, unfulfilled, and invisible to the world. They gave their lives to labor, and life gave them nothing in return but fatigue, not because they lacked discipline, but because they lacked leverage. The world does not reward effort, it rewards effectiveness. It does not crown the man who suffers, it crowns the man who builds. And while the masses still worship hard work like a golden calf, the wise know this secret. It is better to think for 1 hour than to work for 100. Now let that settle in your mind, because it may offend the part of you that takes pride in struggle, the part of you that finds identity and exhaustion. But I am not here to flatter your pain. I am here to free you from it, and you cannot be free while still believing that suffering is success. The truth is most men work harder. The more they fall behind, their answer to every setback is try harder. And so they grind deeper into the wrong strategy. They double their hours, not realizing they are digging a deeper hole. Like a man rowing harder in the wrong direction, they praise their effort while cursing their results. This is the myth of hard work. Let me be clear. I do not disrespect effort. I do not mock the toils, but I do pity the man who labors without leverage, because that man is not working, he bleeding, and the worst part, he believes he is winning simply because he is tired. But results do not respond to your pain. They respond to your precision. They respond to systems. They respond to leverage. And unless you understand how to wield these forces, you will spend your life in the arena, but never win a single match. Let us now speak of a Ford did not invent the automobile. That credit belongs to men like Carl Benz and others. But Ford did something far more powerful. He changed the rules of the game. He invented the assembly line. While other companies tried to build faster by hiring more workers, Ford changed the method. He did not add more force. He added more leverage. By breaking down the process of manufacturing into repeatable steps, he turned a slow, expensive craft into a mass production vehicle. In doing so, he didn't just build cars. He built an empire. And he did it, not by working longer hours, but by rethinking the process. That is the mark of true genius, not labor. Leverage. Ford understood what most men never grasp. Your results are not tied to how hard you work. They are tied to how wisely you build. And wisdom requires distance, strategy, reflection, the very things that exhausted men avoid. You see, most men wear exhaustion like a badge. They confuse busyness with progress. They brag about being overworked, mistaking motion for meaning. But let me ask you, what is the point of breaking your back if nothing ever breaks through the trap? Is this pride and suffering without results? the man who refuses help because he can do it all himself, the man who scoffs at automation, the man who sees systems as weakness and sweat as virtue. He's been taught that real men grind, but I tell you now, real men build, and the builders of the world, the Carnegies, the Edison, the Rockefellers did not ascend by being the hardest workers in the room. They ascended by being the most effective. They surrounded themselves with talent. They created frameworks. They bought back their time. They mastered the art of leverage. So what is leverage? It is the ability to multiply your results without multiplying your effort. It is the force that allows small input to create a massive output, and it rests on three pillars: people, systems, and time. Let me show you each one. 1. People. Most men try to do everything alone, out of pride, out of fear, out of ignorance. But no empire was ever built by one man with a shovel. You must collaborate, delegate, and connect with others who complement your strengths. Look at Carnegie. He openly admitted, "I owe everything I achieved to the knowledge I gathered from other men." He didn't try to be a genius at everything. He became a conductor, surrounded by men who played their instruments with mastery. That is why he rose. Ask yourself, now who is helping me build? And if the answer is no one, then your ladder is made of straw. 2. Systems. A system is simply a repeatable structure that produces a predictable result. It can be as simple as a morning routine, or as complex as an enterprise workflow, but without systems, you will drown in chaos. The man who reinvents his day from scratch every morning is not free. He is fragile. He is one crisis away from collapse. But the man who has systems, who knows where his energy goes, who automates decisions, who schedules his priorities, instead of prioritizing his schedule, that man is undistractable. He is dangerous. Ford's assembly line was a system. Carnegie's network of steel plants ran on systems. Edison's labs were organized with military precision. These men were not chained to their work. They were freed by their systems. 3. Time. This is the most misunderstood lever of all. Every man has 24 hours, but not every man uses them the same way. Some men sell an hour for $20. Others build something that earns while they sleep. Time is not something to make. It is something to multiply. You do that by creating things that scale: products, assets, media, content, code, relationships. You must ask yourself, am I spending time, or am I investing it? Because the man who only spends time will always be broke, but the man who invests time into leverage activities becomes free. Now understand, you can't activate these levers until you step back, until you pause the grind long enough to think. And that is why I began this lesson with the quote, "It is better to think for 1 hour than to work for 100, because thinking is rare, strategic, thinking is sacred, and men who do it regularly, men who carve out time to reflect, to build systems, to form alliances, those men rise, not because they work harder, but because they work smarter." So now I challenge you, look at your life, not just your career, but your routine, your habits, your inputs. Where are you working hard, but gaining little? Where are you laboring, but never leveraging? Where are you stuck in pride, instead of building power? And more importantly, where are you afraid to let go? Where are you rejecting help, structure, or feedback, because you think suffering is more noble? Then building these questions will sting. They will humble you, but they will also liberate you. Because once you see the truth, that hard work, without leverage, is just spiritual poverty, you begin to seek something higher. You begin to value results over repetition. You begin to think like a builder, and not just a worker. Let me leave you with this thought. The world is filled with hard-working men who never lived the life they dreamed of, not because they didn't try, but because they never learned how to build leverage. And you, my friend, are standing at the crossroads. One path leads to exhaustion, the other leads to power. Choose wisely, and never again mistake fatigue for fulfillment. Lesson 3. Not everyone deserves access. There comes a moment in every man's life when he must confront a quiet but devastating truth. Some of the people he loves the most are the very ones who are holding him back, not through hatred, not through sabotage, but through access, silent access, constant access, unexamined access. And make no mistake, access is power. Who you allow into your daily life, into your thoughts, your energy, your schedule, your vision will determine your future more than your talent ever could. And yet most men guard their passwords more carefully than they guard their attention. They would never give a stranger the keys to their home, but they allow voices to live rent-free in their subconscious, shaping every decision, dampening every ambition, softening every edge. Let me say this with no apology. You can love someone deeply and still limit their access, because love is not the same as proximity. Love is not the same as priority. Love is not the same as authority over your life. And if you confuse the two, if you believe that to love someone is to keep them close, you will sabotage your own evolution, because here is what no one tells you. You will outgrow people who once felt like home, and if you cling to them out of guilt, you will decorate your cage with familiar faces, but it will still be a cage. I have seen more destinies destroyed by emotional loyalty than by failure, and it often begins with a subtle belief. They've been there for me, so I owe them access. You don't let me be clear. Gratitude does not require submission. You can thank someone for their role in your past without giving them power over your future. You can honor someone's presence in your life without making them a permanent resident in your mind, because you must understand this. Now who you give consistent access to becomes who you absorb, and who you absorb becomes who you are becoming. You see, every conversation you tolerate, every relationship you refuse to question, every phone call you return out of obligation, these are not harmless acts. These are votes, subconscious votes, cast toward a particular identity. And the man who ignores this will wake up one day with a life that no longer resembles his vision, but perfectly mirrors his circle. Let me tell you a story. Theodore Roosevelt was born into privilege, but refused to become soft. From the very beginning, he knew that his environment would shape him, so he chose it with violence. He boxed, he hunted, he challenged the assumptions of his upbringing, and when he entered politics, he was ruthless with his focus. Roosevelt did not allow sentimentality to cloud his judgment. He removed weak links from his inner circle. He walked away from those who preferred comfort to clarity, and that is precisely why he rose, not just in title, but in stature, because he understood something most men never dare admit. Familiarity is the enemy of greatness when left unchallenged, and the closer someone is to you, the more dangerous they become if their values no longer align. Roosevelt's life was not easy, but it was built with intention, and that is what you must adopt. Now, not coldness, not bitterness, but intention, a ruthless clarity about who belongs inside the walls of your ambition, and who does not. Most men will never do this. Why? Because of guilt. Guilt is the quiet assassin of destiny. It disguises itself as love. It whispers, you can't leave them behind. It pleads, they were there for you. And so the man delays. He explains. He apologizes. He walks at half speed, so his companions don't fall too far behind. And in doing so, he betrays the man he was becoming. You must understand this. You cannot lead if you are still negotiating your pace. You cannot build a new world while still trying to explain yourself to the old one, and you cannot carry people who were never willing to walk beside you when it mattered. Loyalty is a noble trait until it becomes self-betrayal. There is no virtue in shrinking for someone else's comfort. There is no honor in staying stuck so others don't feel left behind. That is not kindness. That is cowardice, dressed as compassion. And so I ask you now, ruthlessly, honestly, who drains you, who sharpens you, not who loves you, not who's known you the longest, not who means well, who makes you better, who makes you bolder, who challenges your excuses. That is your circle. The rest, they are merely memories. Let go of the guilt. Let go of the fantasy. Let go of the idea that you can evolve without making someone else uncomfortable. Growth always makes someone uncomfortable, and sometimes that someone is you. There's a reason you feel heaviness around certain people, a reason your energy drops when you answer their call, a reason you feel the need to explain, to dilute, to defend your new habits, your new beliefs, your new intensity. It's because you know deep down that they don't align anymore. But instead of acting on that knowledge, you suppress it, you justify it. You say I'm being too harsh, or they're not that bad. And that's how average is inherited. That's how greatness dies, silently, in rooms where no one has the courage to walk out. So I urge you, now audit your access points. Who texts you the most? Who has your ear during your low moments? Who influences your vocabulary, your urgency, your dreams? Who questions your standards, or worse, mocks them? These questions are not hypothetical, they are surgical, and if you do not answer them, your environment will answer for you, because in the absence of intention, access becomes automatic. Here is the truth. Most never accept. Not everyone can come with you. Some people are chapters, not lifetimes. Some people are lessons, not partners. Some people were meant to introduce you to your potential, but not walk with you into. And if you confuse temporary roles with permanent ones, you will carry dead weight into the future. And dead weight doesn't just slow you down, it reshapes your identity. You are not responsible for everyone. You are responsible for your calling, and if someone is not aligned with that calling, you limit their access. You do not hate them, you do not shame them, you simply remove them from the center of influence in your life, because if you do not protect your mind, someone else will infect it. Now say this aloud: I do not owe everyone access just because I once gave it. Say it again: I do not owe everyone access just because I once gave it. Because that sentence, spoken with conviction, is a doorway to your future. The man who guards his energy becomes magnetic. The man who elevates his standards becomes rare. And the man who chooses power over guilt becomes legendary. So choose wisely, because access is everything. Lesson 4. Your mind must be reprogrammed daily. The most important battlefield in your life is not the world. It is not the marketplace. It is not even your environment. The greatest war a man must fight is the one taking place inside his own mind. And here's the truth. Most men never grasp your mind is not naturally programmed for greatness. It is programmed for survival. It is wired to conserve energy, to avoid pain, to seek what is familiar, to stay where it is safe. And unless you actively, daily, relentlessly reprogram, you will default back to patterns you never consciously chose. This is why change is so hard, not because you don't want it, but because your subconscious is still loyal to the old. You understand this, your thoughts become beliefs, your beliefs become your identity, and your identity becomes your decisions. What you think, you begin to believe. What you believe, you begin to act upon, and what you act upon, you begin to become. So if your thoughts are weak, your results will be weak. even if your goals are strong. That is why this lesson is not optional. This is not a motivational idea. This is not self-help. This is mental architecture. If you do not take control of your mind, someone else already has. Let me tell you what most men don't realize. Every day, subconscious is being programmed. Whether you intend it or not, whether you agree with it or not, the music you hear, the conversations you tolerate, the books or lack of books you read, the tones, the language, the silence, the inputs, they all become the code. And most men, by the time they are 30, are still running the code they inherited at 13. Their father's doubts, their teachers' tone, their neighborhood's limitations, their culture's fears, their circle, sarcasm, all of it embedded, not by truth, but by repetition. This is why repetition is more powerful than reality. Your subconscious does not ask this true. It asks only, have I heard this enough times to make it real? And that, my friend, is where your power lies. Because if your subconscious can be programmed by accident, then it can be reprogrammed by design. Enter one of the most powerful tools ever revealed to man, auto-suggestion, a concept so deceptively simple that most overlook it, and in doing so, overlook their destiny. Auto-suggestion is the daily conscious repetition of what you choose to become. It is not wishful thinking. It is not empty positive talk. It is the act of installing a new identity through repeated intentional affirmation. When you say, I am disciplined, your subconscious does not ask if you've earned the right to say it. It simply listens. And when it hears that message over and over again, spoken aloud, visualized with emotion, backed by physical movement, it begins to believe. And once it believes, it starts to act. Your habits shift, your decisions shift, your posture shifts, because the man who repeats his power becomes it. Let me now give you what I call the daily programming protocol. This is not a theory, it is a practice. It is how you keep the old identity out and the new one installed. Daily step 1, create your identity statement. Write down clearly and vividly the man you are becoming. Use I am language. I am focused. I am wealthy. I am disciplined. I am a leader of men. It must be definite. It must be emotional. It must feel like fire in your mouth when you say it. Step 2, repeat it aloud every morning. Stand tall, shoulders back, chest forward. Say your identity aloud. Not once, not timidly, repeatedly, with power. Your body must be involved. Your voice must carry conviction. This is not for others to hear. It is for you to hear, because you are the one who must be reprogrammed. Step 3, visualize. While you speak as you declare your new identity, see it. See the room, see the bank account, see the way you walk, the people around you, the deals, the respect, the habits. Let the picture come to life, not as fantasy, but as preview. Step 4, control your environment. Repetition cannot be limited to your mouth. It must exist in your environment. The books you read, the voices you allow, the music, the decor, the pace. If your physical space still echoes the man you used to be, you are programming yourself for confusion. Change your environment until it mirrors your new identity. Step 5, program at night. The subconscious is most impressionable. In the moments before sleep, speak your affirmations again, visualize again, let your mind drift off while meditating on your new reality, because your final thoughts at night are often the first instructions your brain follows in the morning. This protocol, done daily, will do more to shape your life than any job, any mentor, or any strategy, because it builds the foundation upon which all those things